PSA sent me a ransom note and I had a choice to make. Either pay it or never get my cards back. Now, I'm going to do this whole video because I've been doing a number of videos about PSA and the controversy over them raising their prices. Boston Card Hunter came on social media and basically called them communists. I had a whole bunch of people make comments. Some were really good and some were unhinged. I got people upset at me. Again, don't shoot the messenger. I'm not PSA, folks. Like, I don't know if you guys understand. I'm a small YouTube creator. I have zero power in the hobby. Like, I don't even know Nat Turner. So even if I had something to say to PSA, I have no way of saying it. But here's my experience. Now, I had one person make a comment on my channel about the video I did about PSA, raising the prices, the controversy, the whole thing, and basically saying that PSA holds cards ransom. And they were like, no, they don't. They will send the cards back if you don't pay the upcharge. And here's what I'm going to tell you. That may be in the paperwork. Like, in the contract that you sign, when you send the cards in, you sign a contract that says, I agree to all the terms and services, right? Okay. So you send them in, you don't pay for your cards because PSA does this where you don't pay up front. The reason they don't do that is because they want the ability to hold your cards ransom. See, that's how they play this game. Now, here's the problem. Just because you have something in writing doesn't mean you are legally protected. Because I have enough experience to know in the real world and in the legal system that a court doesn't look at the paperwork. They look at standard operating procedures. They want to know, what do you actually do? Because what you write isn't the same as what you do. So you can write anything you want down. But if you don't do that in practice, standard operating procedure, you may have broken the law. And two, you may have broken your own policy. And that's the point. If you have in writing, and this is what this commenter didn't understand, is they're like, no, they don't hold your cards ransom. No, it's a ransom note. They said to me my card was worth X, and I'm like, prove it. Like, you keep saying that you think this card is worth X. That put it over the threshold, which is why they were like, no, we're going to charge you more to grade this card. To which I was like, why? You have to prove that the card is worth what you say it's worth. I think it's worth X, which is under the threshold. I have no evidence that you have. And I said, show me the evidence. And this is what they wrote back. We believe that this card, based on our research, is worth X. And I said, well, show me the research. And they didn't have anything to show me. They didn't have anything to show me. To which I said, well, if you can't prove the card is worth X, then just grade it and I'm going to pay you what I agreed to pay you, because that's what it is. Again, they didn't want the $21 for the grading. See, they wanted more money. They screwed themselves because of the fact that they don't like. That's why they raised the prices, because no one's going to stop sending in cards. Everybody in this hobby is greedy. End of story. Hopefully that's making sense to people at this point. The reason why PSA has won, the reason why PSA has screwed you over, the reason why PSA owns the market on grading is because everyone is greedy. I don't know what else to say. And I got a whole bunch of comments. Again, I appreciate all the comments. Some people were right on. They were spot on. They were like, people only send the cards in. They won't send them in for SGC, because if you send them into SGC, then you're taking a hit on the resale value and PSA gets more. Yeah, that's called greed. I mean, plain and simple. If you want the maximum amount of money, that's called greedy. And you don't have to like it, but it's the truth. the card is worth X amount. There's always a range, like that nothing is worth an exact amount because we don't have any way. We don't have a market. We don't have an exchange. There's no buying and selling of cards. It's all flea market. It's all negotiation. So there's a range for every single card. So it's worth around a certain amount, and you determine with the person how much you're going to pay. Now, people misunderstand that and misinterpret that to go, the card is only worth what someone will pay for it. No, someone will pay relative to what the value in the market perception is. That's the piece. So if the market perception goes up, people are willing to pay more for that card. And that's what happened during the pandemic. The perception of cards went up, therefore people were overpaying for everything. And literally everything. And if you're a subscriber to my Substack here, High End Cards, then you know the story of the Jeff Wilson 1986 Michael Jordan Fleer rookie card where he spent $500,000 on a copy. And then literally 3 months later, he spent $200,000 on another PSA 10 copy. So he admitted he lost $300,000 on one card. That's a lot of money to overpay. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but that's a lot of money to make a mistake. For most of you, $300,000 is multiple years' salaries. That's a lot of money to waste on a card. So he was very wrong. But the problem being is that it's a PSA 10. And an SGC 10 would never have gone for $500,000. Just wouldn't have happened. And that's the point, is everybody's like, well, but I deserve all that money. Well, yeah, if you're greedy, you deserve all that money. These are cards. These are cards. And that's it. And the minute you make them into more than cards is the minute greed comes in. And that's when the overinflated egos happen. That's when all the problems start to occur. The minute you stop looking at them as cards and you look at them as something else, that's when greed takes over. And that's the problem with the hobby at this point, is that PSA is capitalizing on your greed. The difference between the values was actually tightening. The difference between what a PSA slab was worth and what an SGC slab was worth was actually getting smaller. It was at the beginning, like 2017, 2018, a PSA slab was worth 50% more than an SGC slab. It was crazy. I mean, I actually was happy about it. I was like, yeah, I'll buy the SGC slab because I'm getting the card at a huge discount for no reason. Like literally no reason. Just a piece of plastic was determining whether or not the card was going to be over expensive or just reasonable. And I'm like, I'm going to take all those SGC cards. Thank you so much for giving me the discount for no reason. But as the pandemic happened and PSA shut its doors for 12 months, and SGC was literally the only game in town because nobody wanted to use Beckett anymore, the gap from 50% actually shortened to around 20 to 30%. And I believe that it actually was going to get down to around 10%, as if people started to continue to use SGC longer term. Because what's the difference between the two graders? Now, this is when SGC was still its own company. It's not, wasn't owned by Collectors, which is the PSA parent. And so now there's no more chances. There's no more options. Everything's owned by PSA, and therefore they've won. They've won the game. But my question to you, and this is the question that I want you to answer, is have you ever gotten a ransom note from PSA where they tell you this is how much it's worth? And have they ever said to you, if you don't pay it, we'll just send you your cards back? That's the allegation in one of the comments that I got, is that if you don't pay the ransom note, they just send you back your cards and they refund you the original amount you were supposed to pay for the grading. I mean, obviously there's no refund because you haven't paid anything, so they just send you back your cards. Has anyone ever had that happen? Like, have they ever gotten a statement, a written statement that says from PSA, and if you don't want to pay the upcharge, we'll just send you back your cards? I want to know if anybody has that in writing from PSA. Because if you don't have that in writing, if no one has that in writing, because everybody's getting upcharged, if no one has it in writing, the PSA says, we'll just send you your cards back, it's called a ransom note. Because standard operating procedure trumps written policy. What you do matters more than what you wrote. PSA writes, we're allowed to do this, but they're not allowed to do it unless they send you your cards back if you don't pay them for the service. Again, they're claiming that the upcharge is part of the service. Right? I mean, are we all on the same page at this point? So what is PSA's service? I love when people get upset at me. Like, I'm just the messenger, folks. I'm just telling you what's going on. That's all I do. I come on, I make the videos, I tell you what's happening. Do I know what's going on behind the scenes? No. Do I know any of these people? No. I don't know Jeff Wilson. I don't know Boston Card Hunter. I don't know, Nat Turner. I don't know Michael Rubin. I don't know any of these people. I've had a brief chit chat with Boston Card Hunter on social media. That was it. He's a very intelligent guy. That's all I can say. He's an intelligent guy. I think he got this one wrong. I think calling PSA communist was, I don't know what he's talking about. It's not communism. I had another commenter on my channel. Again, great comment. Basically said, this isn't communism, this is capitalism. In communism, they wouldn't, why would they raise the prices now that there's no competition? That's called capitalism. There's no competition, now they raise their prices. And that's what Amazon wanted to do. They wanted to knock out all the retailers, and then once there's no competition, raise their prices. That's what Walmart is doing. They've knocked out all the mom and pops, and now that the mom and pops are gone, they jacked up their prices. That's it. You're paying higher prices now at Walmart because there's no more competition. And in fact, now they actually have a lawsuit. I think the DOJ is looking into it. Not sure. We'll see. But that Walmart's actually lowering their prices artificially, and they make the wholesalers charge other people the extra money, which is completely illegal. Who knows? Who knows where these lawsuits go? But again, that's the piece, is that there's a lot of shady stuff that's happening because of greed. Greed is at the center of all of this. Like, if you want to fix the hobby, you got to fix greed. And I don't think that's possible. I don't think there's a way to fix people's greedy nature. You have cards, they're worth X amount of money, but you don't want to just sell them. You want to screw people over. Okay? I mean, you have every right to do that. You have every right to do that. I'm not saying that you don't have the right to do it. I'm just saying, is that really what you want to do? Like, you have a choice. You have a choice to be greedy, or you have a choice to be fair. And most people today, 9 out of 10 people, will choose the greedy path. It's just the way it is. Society has changed. Now, I can't say that I ever grew up in a society that was fair. It really wasn't. I was probably before my time, where people were much more, I guess, open, friendly, fair, like, hey, let's do a reasonable thing. There used to be something called a handshake agreement. Nowadays, you can't do a handshake agreement. You can't make a deal with anybody unless you have it in writing, because someone will screw you over. Even with a written contract, someone will screw you over. Greed is at the center of everything, and the greed is at the center of this hobby. Why is Fanatics jacking up wax prices? Because they're greedy. That's it. They don't need to make X amount of money per product. They don't need to, but they're like, why not? We can, therefore, why not? And the issue is that that's not a sustainable business model. Like, this is the problem with greed. Greed is short term. Greed is not sustainable long term. Eventually, you will run out of customers. Eventually. How long? Who knows? Like, Fanatics eventually is going to run out of customers. They're growing the hobby? Absolutely. Are more people interested in sports cards than ever before? Absolutely. But at some point, everyone's going to start going, I don't want this anymore. Because you burn people out when you charge too much. See, when you charge a certain amount, when you charge a reasonable price, people don't get price fatigue. And that's like business 101. You have to know what's the fair market value. Because if you're in the fair market value, people just go, yeah, that makes sense. And they don't feel like they're getting ripped off. The minute people feel like they're getting ripped off, you start to have price fatigue. And then it becomes a question. Should I buy this or should I not? And once you get into that problem, your business is done.